This is our May 27th, 2025 meeting, and I think everybody in this room never thought we'd be here at this particular point, but we are. So we have a little bit left to do, but we're going to bring this to a conclusion in the next few months. And I'd like to start, as we normally do, by introducing task force members, but before we start, on my left, we have a new task force member who was appointed by the Select Board to replace Peter Lieberworth. And I'd like you to, Heather, I'm sorry, I'd like you to just say a little bit about what your background is. And
my name's Heather Allen. I live in Cundy's Harbor. I've lived in Harpswell for, 25 years maybe. My husband grew up here. I own a vacation rental company on Bailey Island, raising my kids here. I've been on a lot of different boards, active at the State House with a lot of different committees. I think I maybe was picked here because I had a lot of opinions about the comp plan originally. So.
well, that's good. Well, welcome, and hopefully you're going to bring us to the finish line. Okay?
You guys are doing a great job.
Okay.
It's not. Hey.
George Prince.
Al LeGros.
Ryan Hurst.
Matt Gilly.
Phil Taylor.
Dave Brown.
Bruce Springsteen. Dave Brown. Okay.
Bob Eaton.
Mary Ann Naif.
Bible. Amy Bible.
I think we got you.
Okay, and we do have a few people from the public and other committees here as well. We'll give them a chance to introduce themselves later. We also have the interim town planner here, Margaret McIntyre, and by the magic of technology, we have Mark Ironman. So can you hear us, Mark?
Doesn't
No.
sound like it, does it?
No.
Okay.
All right, we'll try to connect Mark. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming here tonight. Let me start by, I know that we sent out the minutes to the last meeting that were put together by Matt Gilly. Do we have any corrections or adjustments to the minutes? Seeing none, I'd like to call for a vote to approve the minutes. Do I have a motion? Okay, moved, seconded, all in favor. All right, the minutes for April 22nd, 2025 are approved. Okay, the main purpose of the meeting tonight is to continue our discussion of any changes that are required to the Comprehensive Plan Task Force that we think are necessary over the next several months to bring this to a point where we think the town will be able to approve this in November. We have made some major changes to the comprehensive plan in the last several months. We've eliminated several goals that were controversial. And there are a number of other changes that have been proposed as well. I think they're summarized in an email or in a memo that Margaret prepared. I think it's the third page of the handout that everybody got. Some of them are minor changes, but some of them are important, major changes. And I'd like to make sure that everybody feels comfortable, first of all, at this point, with the changes that have been made. We eliminated a section that really called, I won't say called into question, but raised issues about folks who wanted to create short-term rentals. What we discovered, both by talking to people and others, is that short-term rentals are a very important part of the economy of the town. They buttress the tourism industry and so on. So in a sense, we were trying to solve one problem, and we were kind of creating another problem and trying to do that. And so we eliminated that section of the comprehensive plan. There's enough left in the comprehensive plan as far as affordable and attainable housing, I think, so that the town can make progress in that area without that specific section. The other section was in the housing area, or in the future land use area. And I'd like anybody to comment on the fact that we eliminated goal 4 in that particular section. Does anybody have any comments or questions about that?
Al, I'm struggling here. Would you mind just repeating the goal that we
All right.
eliminated?
Goal 4. Let me get the right.
Yeah, Al, are you looking, I want to clarify, you're looking at your May 22nd, 2025 memo, changes that were there, okay, so that's what we're looking at right now.
Oh, right,
think I know.
right. I should have,
You want me to read what goal 4 was?
yeah, please.
Please do.
Have it.
Thank you.
I think, under the housing section.
Yep,
Limit the use of new attainable housing or the conversion of existing year-round housing into seasonal or short-term.
okay, that's the
rental.
short-term rental housing. And then there's goal 7
We said-
under the
Page 59.
future land use plan.
Taking up a lot of.
59, he's talking about future land use.
Yeah, 64,
64?
yeah, page 64.
64.
Here it is.
Okay, all right.
7.
Okay, and let me just,
Fine, I thought he was talking about future. I'm not sure.
He said he could hear Al. I saw him say that
are
earlier.
you on?
That's
I can hear Al. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, good. Yes, sir.
Mark's role here, the comp plan, or is Mark's role here for the affordable housing? Both, or, I just would like to clarify.
I'll let him speak to that. My understanding is that he's still connected to the housing committee, but Mark, would you care to comment on that question?
Amy was breaking up. I really couldn't hear her.
My question, Mark,
Question.
was, can you hear me now?
Yes, sorta.
Okay, I'll move this over closer. My request was that you clarify what your role is here. Are you here on behalf of the Comp Plan Committee or the Housing Task Force, or both, or what? I just want to make sure I understand what your role is.
I guess at this point, Amy, my role is to assist the Housing Committee, and that's my role here tonight.
Okay, great, thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay, getting back to the second major thing that we've done is Goal 7 under land use. And that Goal 7 was to expand the opportunities for attainable housing, which, was a major issue of concern. But the feeling was that eliminating that goal would not necessarily reduce the important things that we thought should be retained in the plan that would make progress in this particular area. I don't know if anybody from the Housing Committee would like to comment on that. Sure.
You mentioned which,
Okay, this is under land use, Goal 7.
oh,
Introduce yourself.
Because more of this issue than the words.
yeah, goal 7 in the land use section, is what we're talking about. Like that. That was why.
Okay. Questions, comments from
Only-
the task?
Just a real quick comment. Wonderful job. I think it was Margaret that went through and edited the plan. And with the red writing with the cross out, I think that makes it abundantly clear to the public, what's been removed and what was there. I think that really hits home, so well done. Well, you can take the credit. You can take the credit.
Yeah, because by eliminating those goals, goals 4 and goal 7, it also had a ripple effect on the implementation plan that was outlined in the plan, and it flowed, and that's good. I think everybody now has an understanding about how that impacts.
I just want to make people aware, too, that there's a bill submitted in the state legislature that would have essentially undermined our efforts with the comp plan, would have mandated state lot sizes, minimum lot sizes, and done a number of other things that would have essentially taken the rug out from under our feet. And hopefully that bill is not going to go anywhere.
Can you explain that a little bit more? I'm not sure what you mean.
I don't have the bill with me, but it would have, in growth areas, it would have mandated that no lot size or lot sizes couldn't be greater than 5,000. Mark probably knows and could address this. I think he was part of it. But it mandated that in growth areas, the maximum lot size could be 5,000 square feet, something like that.
Maximum.
Maximum.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
as I think many of you know, Cheryl Golick, who's a member of the Housing Committee, is also the state representative that represents Harpswell in the legislature. Cheryl is actively involved in the bills. Can't see who's there. I don't know whether Cheryl's here or not.
No.
Because Tuesday is legislature day for her. There was an article in the Press Herald in the last couple of days that outlined the 8 or 10 bills that the House Committee is holding hearings on that relate to housing affordability. And as of last Friday, they were all moving targets. So in answer to Amy's question, I don't know what's where. I think there was a lot of testimony for some of the bills and against those same bills. And I really don't know what's happened over the weekend and today. But it's safe to say that the legislature is looking at either mandating or limiting what towns can do with respect to affordable housing.
So in other words, if Harpswell, if we felt that 5,000 square foot lots was not appropriate at this particular point in time for Harpswell, if the state passed that law, if you will, then we would be forced to deal with that as a community.
Well, be careful, because this is where the devil is in the details. The bill that Amy was talking about applied only to areas that were designated in an adopted comprehensive plan as growth areas. So under the current plan that's in effect, those requirements would only apply to the areas in the 2005-2006 plan that were designated as growth areas. Under the plan that you're discussing tonight, the town's intention is not to designate any growth areas. And I think in other discussions, and I'm not sure it was here, but in some of the other bills, it says growth areas that are serviced or can be serviced by public water and public sewer are subject to requirements like the 5,000 square feet. The bills before the state, the ones I've looked at, and I have not looked at all of them, are mandates. They say that the municipalities must do X or Y. One of them creates a state board to where developers can appeal to the state to override municipal decisions on development projects that involve affordable housing. It is from my perspective, a quagmire where there are this whole bunch of bills that go in different directions and do different things. There also are two bills before the legislature which would substantially revise the requirements for municipal comprehensive plans. One of those has a provision in it that it would take effect immediately, and that even plans that were in process would have to meet those new requirements. Again, I don't know where that's going to go. There were hearings on that last Thursday or Friday.
Well, okay,
Who brought the wine and beer?
yeah, that's, so, I mean, that's interesting. Just, my understanding of where we are in our comprehensive plan is that we've opted to explain to the state that we don't want to have specific growth areas identified for a variety of reasons. First of all, we don't have municipal water, we don't have municipal sewer, and that when you look at our geography, soils and area to be developed, it doesn't make sense to say that over the next 10 or 15 years, we're going to have a whole bunch of houses in one or two areas of Harpswell and no other place, because there are limitations that there are physical and practical limitations that we have to deal with. So what we've tried to do is say, if any development occurs in the future, we think it's smart to distribute it through the town in a smart way. In other words, if land is available, we can build or develop and so on, but not necessarily in one or two specific areas. In 2005, the comprehensive plan said that our growth areas are going to be around the villages in Harpswell. Well, when you look at it, it's almost like throwing gasoline on a fire, because you got a concentration of houses, you're trying to put more houses on that, and you're butting up against challenges with respect to water and septic and all of that, and the town really ultimately didn't buy it, and there was not a lot of progress in that area. So that's my understanding of the big picture of where we are right now. I'm not sure how the town would or should react if we said our interior zone, for example, is our growth area. Would that be something that would fly with the state?
Well,
I'm going to I just,
Okay,
I think that question is not really appropriate at this time. The growth area, the rural area or the interior, something like 90% of the town. A growth area is supposed to be a very small
Right.
area, walkable, has to meet certain standards, and that suggestion wouldn't meet those. I think we should hear what Mary Ann has.
I have a question. We are applying to the state for them to accept our plan
Right,
in this manner.
right.
When we find out, do we have to wait until we pass the plan before we find out whether the state will accept? Because if we do, we need to be very clear, I think, with the public before.
Yes, sir.
Last thing that Mark said is terrifying, is if we haven't passed odds that we want to change, we'll have to go back and redo that. And that
We're being very, very
means, or
generous.
two. I think that we could hypothesize what the
Yeah.
and let's get on with our business. Like, start hypothesizing
Yeah,
about it.
yeah.
think that-
Yes,
We already are here forever.
yes, sir. Mark?
Yeah.
Al, I can't hear anything that people at the table, other than Mary Ann, are
So
saying.
Mike,
Well, that's all that counts.
It's all broke.
Because she's got a big mouth.
What Bob said was that, in his view, we need to kind of get on with where we are right now and propose something and not worry about whether the state passes or does something in the future. Am I kind of summarizing that correctly?
Broken up.
And it,
But let me say,
go ahead.
He just got muted. How did he get muted?
Not talking.
You stop talking.
who?
that's the TV's muted.
Oh,
I'm frozen.
yep.
I was
No, I'm
looking,
not.
you saw the email between me, you, Christy, and Margaret about this growth plan stuff, and I just
Yep.
pulled it up to read it. And it looks like, according to Christy and Viewshed, that we will submit the request to be exempt from growth areas once we submit our plan. So that can't happen until the voters approve it, but the voters should be made aware that if we are not granted this exemption, what they voted on doesn't matter, because it doesn't count.
Yeah, at least,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you.
I wish and I don't know the answer to this, and I will do my best to find out, but I feel as though we should be able to at least submit a draft to the state before the voters and say, this is what we're gonna give to the voters, would you approve this? So at least, I mean, that would only make logical sense.
I think we should be able to do that.
Do you know anything, Margaret or Mark?
I'm pretty sure
pretty
we
sure
can
we
do
can.
that.
We did that. I didn't want to talk over
I'm
you.
99% sure we've done that.
We've done it in the past here in town.
Yep.
When we were trying to put in a pesticide ordinance, we submitted it to the state ahead of time. They came back and told us it was not going to fly.
Yep.
So we needed to make changes before
So-
we could take it.
So what timeline are we talking about here? I mean,
I
if
think if we do it like now, well, I don't know. I
Mark
can't
has something to
remember.
say here.
I'm gonna sit down.
Mark can answer.
Mr. Chairman, the state sets out a process for requesting approval, if you will, for not designating growth areas. And I'm doing this from memory, but if I remember correctly, there are 5 factors, and the towns has to demonstrate that it meets one or more of those factors. Back probably a year ago, Judy provided somebody, the task force or Al, with a analysis of how the town's situation complies with, I think it was 3 of those 5 criteria. I think at the point that the town has a reasonable draft, what you're going to take to maybe the second public workshop that Margaret talk with the people at the state and ask them if they would review the land use section. They don't have to review everything. And the town's justification for not designating growth areas and see if they will respond to that. And at this point, I'm not sure. The whole thing about where the staff that deals with comprehensive planning is has changed. They've moved into the new section that I guess is now part of GoPIF, I think, where they've put all the stuff back together in sort of not unlike what the state planning office was before. And I mean, I know the person who's the head. I don't know the staff person, and I think we can ask them to look at that and give the town a response prior to town meeting. But I wouldn't bet money on it myself. I think there's a good chance they would do that.
Okay,
And in answer to Amy's question, I've now crossed the line in that I'm providing advice to the comprehensive plan task
Read my
force
mind, Mark, you read my mind.
on the overall
I hope you won't
comprehensive
send us a
plan.
bill.
Well, of course I will. But that's there. So as you look at all of the state proposals that are out there, my understanding from Cheryl as of last week is that they were all in flux. They were all going to go through markup sessions, I think, this week in response to the public hearings that were held last week. And who knows what will come out of those? Who knows how they will come out of committee, if they come out of committee at all. And so in a way, I wouldn't try and, game play what might or might not happen. And we'll see.
Okay. Bob. Yes, sir. Bob.
The game of the microphone. Is it green?
Yep.
Yes. Can you hear me, Mark?
I can hear you now.
I think what abyss in trying to play the legislature, what see comparatively coming out of pushing housing, getting to that 80 units that need. That's all it's about in every different bill. Mark was talking about Bill 1829, which sets up this board to be able to. I'm in a petition right now in Cape Elizabeth that, there's no reason I should be there, but it now allows me to go somewhere to alleviate that pain, cost. For 6 months, it's going to cost me $300. And it goes on. Subdivision down in Saco got 300 units, got waylaid after the planning board approved it, then backtracked on it. I mean, so it's all about trying to.
Just so everyone knows, the
That
1829
microphone
was
still doesn't work.
the Maine Municipal Association, which oversees all the municipalities in town, testified in opposition to 1829 because of its unconstitutionality, overstepping the home rule authority that is laid out in the state constitution. So there are major constitutional implications to that bill if it passes. And I mean, the organization overseeing all of the towns is not in favor of it, which should be concerning to everybody in the public.
Yeah. I mean, my view is that we have basically a plan, a comprehensive plan put together. We ought to submit that plan and let the chips fall where they may. We have some rationale put together to dealing with growth areas and why Harpswell is unique. I think that's kind of the best we can do, and we need to make sure that the town, the community understands that. If the powers that be at some point in the future say, well, we're not going to accept this because of X, Y, and Z, well, that's beyond our control. But I think we put together a plan that makes sense for this town, and that's all we can do. And I will try to work as best I can to make sure that the rationale that we put forward is understood at a higher level, and I guess that's the best we can do. I would ask, just shifting a little bit, does anybody here think we need to make any other major changes to this plan other than what we've done?
One thing I think we should address is the affordable housing group's paragraph that they want inserted.
Right.
That would be, for me, something that we really ought to have a dialogue about.
Okay, so good point. So we delayed discussing that because both you and George were not here at the last meeting. Would anybody, I know there are people from the Housing Committee that would like to comment on that. I would invite anybody to come up and talk to that. We're talking about the last paragraph on page 1-56 of the Housing Issues and Implications, the way it was written. And George and Amy came up with some alternative language. And I think the Housing Committee had some comments or suggestions, questions about that.
You know where it is better than me.
Yes, sir.
But somebody, I didn't realize this, what I've got in front of me is a suggestion by George and Amy to, in fact, the housing.
We also have our,
Could, maybe George or Amy would speak to why they wanted to change it and what they did to change it. What is the difference? So what I did was, I went to other towns. I went on the state's website, looked up towns that passed their plan and the state accepted their plan. Phippsburg was one, Long Island was another one. So I went mostly by those. Surrey, I just went up and down the coast. I know Cushing, they don't have a plan that passed. But anyways, the towns that passed, and I looked at what they had, and basically they had a growth management chart from the next 5 years, or the previous 5 years, excuse me. And they had this basic language. I didn't plagiarize it, but I used what we already had and tried to choose my words carefully. This paragraph has come up a lot in conversation, so I was just trying to create something that the voters could go
Okay, why
along
don't you
with while we're still maintaining the state's
Okay,
requirement.
why don't you quickly read through that?
All right, so what I came up with, affordable housing as defined by Maine State Housing Authority. Housing is considered affordable If the household spends no more than 30% of its income on housing-related costs, mortgage, rent, utilities, taxes, insurance, maintenance, keeping
Okay,
these costs.
hold on. We have,
You don't have.
Yeah.
No, but that's because I wrote this, and I sent it in an email. You guys should have all gotten it.
We didn't get that one.
It was before the last meeting.
It was.
Everybody should have
Got
gotten
Am-
it.
We got Amy's, and I thought it was from your group.
George?
Our group? No.
No, George?
What group?
What group? I
You,
don't know.
Amy, and, no,
okay, so let's
let's go back.
let's listen to what,
I was unaware there was a group.
let's listen to what George is proposing.
So, yeah, so I took this directly from the state's website, this first paragraph. And it just explains, the definition of affordable housing. And then the state goal is to encourage and promote affordable, decent housing opportunities for all Maine citizens. And then the bottom paragraph says, there is currently a need for more affordable housing nationwide. Harpswell is no different than many other municipalities along the Maine coast where the median cost of housing has increased dramatically over the past few years. The town also realizes that it will be difficult to provide affordable housing for its target group of young local families, fishermen, waterfront workers, firemen, caregivers, school teachers, carpenters, tradespeople, etc., but will continue to address the issue for the need for more affordable housing through the efforts of the Affordable Housing Group. So when I read the state's requirements, it said that we must address, that was the key word, the situation. And that's where I came up with that last sentence. So it's just a suggestion. It's another option.
Yeah, what you read
We don't
in the
like
last
it.
part there, I think, was all conveyed to us. Because I have those words,
But there was,
and
from the beginning.
you're proposing that the last sentence on page 1-56 be replaced by those words.
Or the last paragraph, but it was just an option.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay,
don't accept
so-
it, that's fine.
so,
No hurt feelings.
Let's discuss whether the housing committee, do you have any thoughts about that wording, if you will? We're saying there's currently a need for affordable housing, and that we don't have a solution right now, but we need to continue to look at this and work with the Affordable Housing Group to come up with a solution,
Yeah,
basically.
I think that the main points that, the main reasons that we're not in support of that change are pretty well addressed in the memo sent along. It doesn't appear to signal that the town cares or is committed to doing anything. It sort of, it hand washes a little
Well, it
bit.
kicks the can down the road a little bit.
Certainly, yeah, and yeah, so we have a bullet point list here. We also wanted to make sure that older folks were included in the list of people. You know, Harpswell Aging at Home is doing good stuff on that. But yeah, and we also want to have mentioned that the housing committee was created by select board, which is not mentioned in the changed paragraph. Yeah.
So what we have here
Those
is
are,
what you're proposing as an alternative.
Ask a clarifying question?
Yeah.
So what George read was I'm just trying to catch myself up, a proposal of the replacement paragraph.
That he submitted,
Okay. And
we-
then
weeks
this, what
ago.
I'm looking at in the stapled portion,
yeah.
is what you are saying the housing committee came back with after George's proposal.
That's our
I
attempt.
just want to make sure I'm on the right timeline.
That's certainly right. Yeah, that's
Okay.
our attempt to hear what George was saying and try to see where we had
Okay.
common ground and
Thank
what
you. Thank you.
this was what we came up with in response to
Yeah,
what George and
we'll
Amy
be
had
good
worked on. But yeah, there was a couple of points that we felt like were important in the original paragraph that we didn't feel like landed in the new one. That's, yeah.
Thanks for.
Questions over to George. Did they try to meet your concerns, did they? Yeah, so obviously I left out, I'll make a note here, I left out that elderly people, I might have even used your language from your, somewhere I came up with this list, but I'll certainly make note that elderly should be on there, and if you want that the select board approve your committee in there, that's fine, or whatever. Or we can just use what you wrote, whatever you want to do. I just tried to simplify it, and I used other towns as a template that the state accepted their plan.
Bill?
Sir.
I think this applies to George and Amy's paragraph and the housing committee's paragraph. The one question I have is both of you guys list people, working waterfront workers, firefighters, teachers, tradespeople, young families. But all of these groups have significantly different income levels. Some of them, i.e. tradespeople and a lot of working waterfront workers, don't qualify for attainable housing. They make too much money. So why, if we're going to list people, we should at least, some firefighters don't even qualify. Certainly teachers do and some younger families, but some of these groups that we listed are pretty well-off people that make a pretty darn good wage. For example, my crew wouldn't qualify for attainable housing under Maine's definition.
Mark could step in and correct me if I'm wrong.
Too much.
Yeah,
I
he's worth every penny.
believe that attainable doesn't have a precise definition. Is that right, Mark?
Yeah, and
I
I
think
think
Bob has an answer too.
there is a good observation being made by Matt. I think the state definition of affordable housing is not very helpful in thinking about housing needs in Harpswell. And that's why the Affordable Housing Working Group chose to use the term attainable, that envisioned that the housing, the upper limit of the income that would be acceptable for existing housing, new housing, would be higher, potentially significantly higher than what the state definition of affordable housing is. The rental, the 80% of area-wide median is probably not very helpful in meeting the housing needs of people who want to live in Harpswell. Same thing in terms of single-family homes. The 120% of area-wide median is really means that, there aren't people that need housing that have incomes that low. And I think that's an important thing that has gotten lost in this discussion. As some of you, I think, are aware, the Southern Midcoast COG did a housing study on the needs for housing. And essentially, what they said is the biggest need in the Midcoast area is not for low-income subsidized rentals. It's for affordable single-family homes for, I'm going to call them, sort of the equivalent of starter homes of 50 years ago that people with reasonable incomes can afford. And I think that's what the report of the Affordable Housing Working Group tried to reflect, that's the issue that the town, one of the issues that the town should be trying to address.
I think one of the important questions that's been asked for quite some time, and maybe somebody here from the housing group can answer it finally, is what is your definition of attainable housing then? Like, we need to know what we're trying to build for, you know what I mean? Like, we need a definition of what we're gonna call attainable housing if we're gonna put that in the plan.
Before you answer that, my first meeting here 2 years ago, I was very confused, and I asked the question, what's the difference between affordable housing and attainable housing? And I remember the answer that I was given. I don't know if you all do, but
do.
I'd like some clarity to the difference in those two, please.
Do you want to, Bob is chomping at the bit. Go
yeah.
ahead.
I think we're getting ahead of ourselves here. Both these statements are not the solution to obtainable housing. They don't pertain to be. They're simply a statement of what's the word? Their aspiration. They're aspirational. They're setting an aspiration for the town to deal with the problem. That's all they're doing. We don't have to define what is attainable, what is affordable. We don't have to define whether, elderly people are rich or poor. We just have to say, these are some of the classes of people we think we need to deal with. We are committed to dealing with it, and we move on. That's all we're trying to do with these two paragraphs. This is, would you let me finish? And I think, as I look at the two, they're both fine, except I prefer the Housing Committee's one, and I tend to defer to a committee that has worked on this a lot, is an instinct. But I like their statement because it says in the first paragraph, in the first sentence, it is, the town recognizes a problem, we're committed to dealing with it. My problem, George, with yours is you sort of talk about all the problems, and then sort of as an afterthought, as a but in the last sentence, you say, but we'll try to deal with the problem. So I like the housing one because it affirms the commitment right up front. But I think either one of them are fine, and they're not worth trying to fine-tune definitions. We're not trying to solve the problem, we're simply saying we want to deal with it.
But don't we have to define the problem to know what we're dealing with?
If we want to write, well, then let's spend more time to do that then.
That's a valid question. I mean, it's just a question. It can be a yes or a no. I mean,
The problem is we don't have enough
right.
people who don't. Is that a problem?
Well, I mean, yeah.
So when we get down to having to try to deal with it, who knows what prices are going to be 2 years down the road? They could be up here or they could be down there.
Right.
So you can't come up with really a firm definition, but I would sense if we started to move ahead on affordable housing, there would be more emphasis putting on the details and what that would be for the housing committee. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Right, and then at some point, you would probably, if you want an ordinance, you would then have to come to the town. Just
So from our perspective, we recognize that there's a problem, and it may be good enough to say, we're going to do something about it. We have things in place, namely a housing committee to take a look at it and come up with some solutions. I guess, yeah, this is.
So basically, we're going to address the problem.
I have a clarifying question about that.
Go ahead.
And I think I'm probably playing catch up. So if I'm looking at what the housing committee wrote, I'm sure you guys have probably already talked about this. Is there a reason that we're including that? I was asked this question a lot before the town meeting that didn't occur. Why we're including the information about a final report, housing for Harpswell? Because I think that was one of the concerns, is it seems final, and now I'm hearing you guys saying it's something that the housing committee will have to work on defining, but this paragraph makes it seem like it's already been done. And that's the concern. Like, if we just took that part out, and maybe how you just worded it, that there is a housing committee,
that's
it doesn't have to be that there's a final report. I think that takes, go
Hey,
ahead.
Bob.
No, you're fine.
Original, the affordable housing is working, we realize almost 2 meetings in that Harpswell isn't in the 30% AMI. It never will be. It probably hasn't. I will tell you, working for HA, I've worked on homes. Income level does meet that. We do need to. So I don't want to be exclusionary in any way, shape, or form. And really, the reason for attainable, affordable, where state and federal law, affordable has these guidelines. We need Harpswell to be flexible. Because I will grant you, during my time working with, I thought Harpswell was at 140%. But I believe we're probably close to 160%. The number is changing daily.
Define AMI for everybody.
Average median income.
Okay.
So, Matt, to your point, electrician, the steersman, the lobsterman, the owner of the boat, all have different wage categories. And we are trying, there's different housing, different groups. We need to be cognizant of being open to all of those affordable working groups, try to be broad, approach, and not specific in practical needs, because it is moving target right now. And we don't know what 10 years is from now.
Are you answering that to my question about including? I'm
No,
trying to.
So now I'll address your question,
Okay.
sorry.
No, that's
If
fine. I just
can.
wanted to try to understand what you're saying. So
The
basically,
affordable working group, the document is an overview trying to help years.
but why does that need to be included in?
Because it gives language that allows us to work through those problems. And that's what
The language
select
is
board-
given.
The select board approved affordable working groups statement.
I'm going to jump in and just say that fairly extensive town resources were put into developing this housing report.
Yeah, I know
And
that.
there were many public meetings held. The select board felt like it was a reasonable report on the housing situation in town and approved the Affordable Housing Working Group's report.
I'm not questioning any
Okay,
of that
yeah.
or the report part. It's the inclusion of saying it's the final report when I'm hearing you guys saying it's a moving target. And so that's what I'm trying to connect here. Like, why do we need that you have a final report in here if by the time you get to housing, it's changed? And my understanding is that the housing committee is going to stay intact for a while because of that. And correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe. I don't know. That's what I'm asking is like, does that part, this end of the paragraph really need to be in there? Because when I'm sitting in the stands of the town meeting, this is what people were bothered by, the final connection of that with, and feeling like they're tied into that report. And I'm not questioning the report. I'm questioning if there's changes. And so then you need to have the report in front of you to make sure that you know what you're voting on in the report versus a moving target.
It may be helpful to, it was a final report from the standpoint that the Affordable Housing Working Group submitted their report to the select board. To say it's the final answer,
Exactly.
That's what I was misleading.
that's
to me.
probably what,
It was approved.
yeah, yeah,
It was not anything. We're all here trying to make.
right.
And I understand what you're saying, but I'm not sure with including that wording in there that I
So
think that's
Bob-
what gives people. Yeah.
Bob, maybe the old wise man at the end of the table there can probably, what do you,
Yeah, you look at.
Okay,
data.
eliminate-
okay, I have a quick question and then a suggestion to move us on. The Affordable Housing Working Group has been laid down. It no longer exists. Is that correct? Okay, fine. Then I suggest, and I think your point is well taken, Heather. After 2 years of work, the Affordable Working House issued its final report, Housing for Harpswell, which was formally adopted. Now, that's just simple fact. It's not, it's something that happened. Select Board has appointed a housing committee to continue and review this report, so that we
Okay.
clear that we're moving forward. There's nothing sacrosanct. It's not the Ten Commandments.
Right.
They're violated anyway, so.
So if
what
we
the hell?
took this and made those modifications, everybody would feel comfortable with that?
I also really understand what Heather was saying. Because as you said, Bob, the housing report wasn't adopted at town meeting. And even though the final report was approved by the select board, it's not the same thing. And so I think that's, you're laughing, but it's true. Yeah, it is. And so I think we should, it sort of gives the impression in the word final report, like it's a done deal.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons, as Heather made really clear, or I will reinforce what she said, is people did not want the zoning recommendations from that housing report as part of the comp plan. And that's why that's another reason that we wanted to create space between that final report and the comp plan. And so I think taking it out of the paragraph is the only way to go.
Okay.
Hard work. Used to accepted. Other than
And then, but the work is continuing, yeah, work is
Yeah.
continuing. Okay.
I think that's a good suggestion.
Okay. All right, so, if we adopt this paragraph here, rather than the last paragraph on this page, with those recommended changes, everybody feel comfortable? Okay. Beautiful.
Could you read them one more time?
Okay, well, I'll try,
It's really important that we get this right, or we'll come
The
back.
town
and spend
recognizes the
another
need
2
for
hours.
attainable housing in Harpswell and is committed to exploring options to create housing that will attract and retain people, among whom are young families, waterfront workers, firefighters, teachers, tradespeople, and I think you said elderly. Teachers.
Older
Should go
adults.
on the end of
That's the new
that.
term.
God forbid we
Yeah,
leave
if we don't
someone
really
out.
need this.
No, Al, older residents are in the next sentence.
All right, okay,
They're
in
already
addition,
there.
okay, the town will actively seek opportunities to enable older adults, okay. Older adults to stay in their community. Because of concern about the current housing situation, the select board appointed the Affordable Housing Working Group to gather data and recommend possible solutions. After 2 years of work, the Affordable Housing Working Group issued its report, Housing for Harpswell, which was formally accepted by the Select Board and can be found on the town website under the Housing Committee. The Housing Committee has been established to continue this effort.
I would add one other thing then. If you're going to keep that in, I would say, after 2 years of work, the Affordable Housing Working Group issued its final report, which was formally approved by the Select Board, but not approved at town meeting.
Why?
Why?
Because it wasn't approved at town meeting, and it leads the reader to think it's the final report, and that's it.
Okay, you're picking on something that I'm sensitive to. The town meeting approved the Mitchellfield Master Plan twice. In the Mitchellfield Master Plan, as currently adopted, it has how is it described? A section of Mitchellfield which is theoretically, I'm missing the words here, where cluster housing can be conceptually adopted in this particular area. Yet, we have been told in various ways that, no, that's not what the community wants. So here again, we have an approved report which suggests that cluster housing might be done in Mitchell Field, and yet, no. Town doesn't want that. So we're, in my, maybe my warped brain, we're arguing on both sides of the equation here. The fact that something is approved by the town does not necessarily mean, or the fact that something is not necessarily approved by the town does not necessarily mean it's invalid. Just as the fact that it's been approved by the town validates it.
Al, I don't know if you know it, but I was one of the prime organizers of that original Mitchell Field master plan.
Okay.
I know what it says.
Okay.
That was over 20 years ago. It was
Yeah.
quite a while ago. So I stand by my recommendation.
Okay.
And I appreciate your words, respect you, but I stand by my.
Okay, so I don't want to die on my sword here, but
No, I think this is important. It's like saying the comprehensive plan task force, which was not approved by the town meeting, issued the final report. We weren't approved by the town meeting, and we don't put that clause after every time we mention our name, say, oh, we weren't approved by the town meeting. I think to put that in is divisive and it's misleading. And I think we should state the fact and let our yay be yay and our nay be nay. And the yay is the select board approved it. Full stop.
yeah.
Just one question, Al. Are we going to leave the link at the bottom where it takes you to the affordable housing?
I'm
so
not
people
sure,
can read
I'm not sure we have to, but it's up to you. I mean, that was an issue that we talked about. People were concerned about linking to a report that was not approved by town meeting.
Okay.
Okay, well, we can reference the report, and we don't necessarily have to link it. But I guess the point here is that not everything that's done in the town. Okay, okay. So we shouldn't invalidate a legitimate effort sponsored by the select board, accepted by the select board, that took over 2 years to develop, and just say, hey, we didn't vote on it, so therefore it's.
I'm mentioning it anyway, the whole section.
Okay, okay.
In this room,
Yeah,
so many other issues. And I just,
yeah.
we want to keep it in there. In the house. Those could be, why not take those out?
Well, here's what I would say to that, Amy.
Recommendations for the housing.
The housing report is not law, and you, as the chair of the planning board, have a hell of a lot to say about what's going to happen with these zoning ordinances.
I follow whatever the board says. And that's what I will do.
Okay?
I'm way over my head, but I'd like to make a motion that we accept your wording
Okay.
as written and we put it to a vote.
Well, wait, because the wording doesn't include whether the link is on there.
I'm ambivalent about putting a link on there. I think the report should be referenced someplace in the comp plan, whether it's by link or whatever. That's fine.
Makes it, anyone who wants.
What do you think, George? You're a link guy.
Yeah, it's right there. If you want to read it, one click and you're reading the document.
Yeah.
Why should you have to search for it? This was all about transparency when we added that link.
That makes sense.
So if you don't want it, again, Here nor there, I guess.
Okay, so we'll put the link in, but we'll make sure that it's,
I mean, I don't think they have anything to hide, right? So if we want to read their
all we're
report.
saying is here's their report.
Yeah.
It's
we
on the
just-
link.
We just want to see it, right?
Yeah. All right. We beat this horse to death.
Do you want to make a motion?
I made a motion, nobody seconded
All right.
it.
Second,
It died of
second.
morning.
All right, I move that we accept Bob Eaton's suggestion about adopting the paragraph as read
With a link.
and include the link in the town website as the last paragraph on page 156.
I second.
Further discussion? All in favor? I love you. You are. You are. All right. Yeah, I know.
There's
Maybe we ought to have
three-
lunch again together.
There was 3 oppositions,
All
not
right.
just one.
Okay, you object to it?
Yep, and so did George.
Okay, what's your?
You don't get a vote.
Yes, I do. I am a voting member.
What's your,
don't think
okay,
so.
so any
That's-
any discussion?
It's,
There's no
Al,
need for discussion.
can you
We're
at
all
least
voting.
confirm that I'm a voting member of the plan still?
Yeah.
Thank you.
No need for discussion. We don't have the votes. Move on.
Okay,
Don't be a sore winner.
okay. Okay, so it passes. But, and everybody's had an opportunity to comment.
Fine.
Yep, I have no issue with it.
Okay, so we move on.
Can I have one quick comment? Here, I'll go. Oh, that's right. Mark can't hear that. No. I would just like to say that as this plan goes forward, it's going to be read, I feel like, more in a paper copy than it will be in a digital copy. So just for the longevity of the plan, it might be worthwhile putting it in the appendix, because in the future, people are going to read it, and it's going to be sitting around the planner's office in a paper copy. Just a thought. Yeah.
Could we add as well to
Well, yeah, of course, it's gonna be online, but I think that,
That's
you
a
know,
good idea.
people will have paper, I mean, that's what people use right now, is a paper copy of the 05 plan. So just
Okay.
a thought.
Thank you.
Good point,
All right,
7:00.
let me say a couple things. First of all, we spent a preponderance of time on housing because that is a very thorny issue, not only for the town, but also for the state, for everybody else. So I'm not necessarily concerned about that. I think the other thing I would say is that we've also addressed the key areas of the vision statement in an adequate way, and one of the reasons we didn't spend a lot of time on any one of them is because there was basically unanimity in what we said about them and what our approach is in the future. So I'm not necessarily concerned about spending an overabundance of time on some of these thorny issues.
I agree with you, Well. It's complicated. Not only thorny, it's complicated.
Yeah.
So,
So I think we're in a good place right now. The other thing I just want to reiterate, if you folks feel as though we're missing the mark in any one area, as, after this, we got to surface this real quickly, because even though our vote is in November, we have to button this up in a final form and get it solidified by August. That's the bottom line. Now, our future meeting schedule. We have a meeting next month in Cundy's Harbor, and we decided to go outside of this building. I think it's the 22nd of June. We decided to go outside of the building because there was a feeling that that might engage the community a bit more and maybe get some more people to comment on what we've come up with. There's an article that's coming out in the June Anchor that talks about I'm trying to remember the dates. There are two dates in July. Margaret, can you help me with the two dates in July?
Cundy's Harbor's the 24th of June.
Cundy's is 24th? I don't have it in front of me, I'm
Are
sorry.
they all at 6 PM still?
6 PM.
Okay.
It's at the community center and whatever they call it in Cundy's Harbor. That's our next meeting. It's going to be essentially like, we would conduct it like a regular meeting, but we would primarily invite public comments. The meeting is going to be announced in the Anchor. The other two meetings we're going to have, one is on Orrs Bailey Island Schoolhouse, 8th of July, and the final meeting is going to be on West Harpswell, like the week or so after that,
22nd.
22nd of July. So those are our next three meetings. They are essentially meetings that we would normally have here, but we're going out to try to get to the community. Now, it's up to us to try to engage the community, to make sure that people know about it. If they have any questions, encourage them to come and provide comments and inputs, because in August, what's the date in August? The 16th of August, we are going to have a town meeting. And that's the final, that's our final,
You said town meeting. It's going to be a public hearing on the 16th
public hearing.
of August at the community school. The limitations for the comp plan are really to do with the November election. It has to be done. Absentee voting starts 30 days before the November election, and 30 days before that, the selectmen set what's going to be on the ballot. And so that's kind of what's governing the mid-August public hearing. And then there will be time for one last emergency change if we need to make it, because I know a lot of the feedback at the last public hearing was there was no time to change and people felt like it was getting pushed. So it
Why
doesn't
are
have,
we doing it?
right, so if there is any, one last change, we have time, that leaves us time for one last public hearing.
What was that, 10 AM, Margaret, on the 16th? Or do we not have a time yet?
10-ish?
All right, yeah.
10 o'clock. Yes.
What was the August date?
16th.
Saturday is,
Saturday, the 16th is public hearing.
Of the Cundy's,
No, the Cundy's meeting is,
The 24th.
24th of June,
June.
okay.
and then there are two meetings in July, one in
Yep.
Orrs and Bailey at Schoolhouse, and the other one's at Kellogg Church.
Are we gonna try to add that page I gave you somewhere, anywhere?
Yes.
Okay. I think it's, would
Now,
encourage.
at some point, we're going to have to put this to print. And so I'll work that out with the powers that be and get something like this done.
Remember, it's fine.
Yeah, so sometime in August. But we have to wrap this up and get everybody on the same page by August to allow people outside of the town to be notified that this is going to be voted on and so on and so forth. It's important to meet those deadlines, so. We're basically here, folks. And it's been a long haul. And there's still time to make some tweaks in the plan. Yes,
I just
ma'am.
have a question about how that works. So if we get the same feedback from the community at all of the places, we
Well,
have another
hopefully-
meeting or?
Hopefully, those things will come out in the next few meetings,
Yep.
and we'll be able to react to that appropriately.
What does that mean, react to that?
That means if people feel, if the task force feels that we've overlooked something and things need to change, we'll change them.
Okay.
This is not our report, this is the town. We want this to reflect the town.
but it's not going to be
It's not going to be perfect,
or no matter everybody.
but this is,
We just need the majority.
we want to get buy-in from the community, and we obviously found out in various ways that there was not complete buy-in to important parts of this report, so we have an opportunity to fix it.
Okay.
I think we're on the right track. Okay. Any other comments or suggestions, recommendations? Anything that we think we need to bring up at this particular point in time? Silence is golden. Yes.
Yeah.
All right, I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. I appreciate it, and onward and upward.